the girl who became the People's Princess. Born on July 1, 1961, into the noble Spencer family, Diana Frances Spencer spent her early years at Park House, located on the Royal Sandringham estate. From the very beginning, her proximity to the royal family seemed almost destined. However, behind this serene facade lay emotional turbulence. Her parents divorced when she was just 8 years old. The experience of staying with her father, who gained custody, deeply affected Diana's emotional world and her understanding of relationships and human connection. Diana's academic life was unremarkable. She failed her O-level exams twice and never attended university. However, she was gifted in other ways. She played the piano with grace, was an accomplished swimmer and ballet dancer, and had a natural flair for the arts. More importantly, even as a teenager, she showed an unusual depth of empathy, an ability to connect with others' pain and joys, a trait that would later become her hallmark. Before entering royal life, Diana experienced the world as many young women do. She worked as a nanny, a kindergarten assistant at the Young England School in London, a dance instructor, and even helped organize social events. She lived in a shared apartment with friends in London's Earl's Court, took the tube, shopped at regular supermarkets, and lived on an average salary. Her life, at that point, was relatable and grounded, far removed from the luxury of palaces and titles. In 1975, Diana's life changed when her father became the 8th Earl Spencer, and she gained the courtesy title of Lady Diana Spencer. By the late 1970s, she began to attract public interest as she entered the royal orbit. Her courtship with Prince Charles, the heir to the British throne, quickly became the subject of media frenzy. Their engagement was announced in February 1981, and on July 29 of that same year, she married Charles in a lavish ceremony at St. Paul's Cathedral, watched by an estimated 750 million people worldwide. Diana's image as a shy, delicate young woman stepping into a world of grandeur captured the imagination of millions. Her fashion choices, soft voice, and gentle demeanor made her instantly adored. She appeared to be a fairy tale bride. But beneath this carefully crafted public image lay a far more complex and troubled reality. The marriage between Diana and Charles was fraught with challenges from the start. Charles, a serious intellectual invested in tradition and public duty, often seemed emotionally distant. Diana, on the other hand, craved warmth, affection, and human connection. Life in the rigid, protocol-bound world of Buckingham Palace often left her isolated and disoriented. She struggled with depression and developed eating disorders, including bulimia, as a way to cope with the intense scrutiny, emotional neglect, and sense of powerlessness. One of the ways Diana sought solace was through dance. For 9 years, she took private ballet lessons under the guidance of an Allen, who became both her mentor and close confidant. In the dance studio, Diana found not only expression but emotional healing, a space away from tabloids, titles, and turmoil. In time, Diana began to channel her emotional intelligence and empathy into humanitarian work. Initially, these appearances were part of her royal duties, but as the years passed, she discovered a personal mission in helping the voiceless and vulnerable. In the mid-1980s, she took the then controversial step of visiting AIDS patients, at a time when the disease was misunderstood and deeply stigmatized. She removed her gloves and shook hands with the patients, publicly demonstrating that HIV could not be transmitted through touch. This moment was not just symbolic, it was revolutionary, and it helped shift public perception around the world. Her work didn't stop there. In 1989, she opened the landmark AIDS Center in South London, proudly giving tours and showing physical compassion to those society had marginalized. Her efforts weren't just performative, she was often the first to arrive and the last to leave, sitting with patients, listening to their stories, and showing genuine concern. Diana's humanitarian work spanned countless causes. She championed children's hospitals, visited homeless shelters, advocated for mental health awareness, and became one of the earliest high-profile figures to campaign against landmines. Her warmth and informality allowed her to connect with ordinary people in a way that no royal had done before. Whether she was hugging a child with cancer or comforting a grieving mother, her presence felt personal, not ceremonial. By 1988, She had made 191 official appearances in a single year. That number rose to 397 by 1991, showing her growing commitment to charitable causes even as her marriage to Prince Charles crumbled. The couple officially separated in 1992 and finalized their divorce in 1996, but Diana continued to serve the public in her own capacity. Diana's fashion sense also evolved. Though she began her royal journey in frilly blouses and conservative gowns, she gradually embraced a modern, confident style. But more importantly, she learned to shift the media's focus from her outfits to her activism. Her wardrobe became a tool: bright suits for children's hospitals, simple attire when visiting war zones, always sending a message without speaking a word. The media dubbed her the People's Princess because of this powerful blend of authenticity, vulnerability, and strength. She was not born royal, yet she redefined royalty. In a world where privilege often creates distance, Diana closed the gap. Her ability to show emotion, to admit struggles, and to step beyond protocol made her a figure of inspiration. Tragically, her life was cut short on August 31, 1997, in a car accident in Paris. The world mourned. Over 2.5 billion people watched her funeral, and flowers lined the streets of London for miles. Her passing sparked a global conversation about the role of the monarchy, the ethics of paparazzi culture, and the need for mental health support. More than 2 decades later, her legacy lives on, not just through her sons, Princes William and Harry, but through the global charitable movements she inspired. Diana taught the world that compassion is a form of courage, and that one person's empathy can ripple across nations. In the hearts of millions, she remains what she always was, not just a princess, but the princess of the people. Humanity, Diana's personal struggles and her public mission. After the grand wedding on July 29, 1981, Diana's life rapidly became a public tapestry, carefully examined, sensationalized, and mythologized. Her image was that of a fairy tale princess, yet behind closed palace doors, a very different narrative unfolded, one of vulnerability, pain, and profound psychological turmoil. Only days after the royal engagement was announced, Diana recalled a moment that left a deep emotional scar. "My husband put his hand on my waistline and said, 'Oh, a bit chubby here, aren't we?' And that triggered off something in me." This seemingly casual comment ignited a lifelong battle with bulimia, an eating disorder that quietly began consuming her during what should have been her honeymoon. "I was so thrilled," she later said, "because I thought this was the release of tension." But the release was short-lived and damaging. Behind the stunning gowns and dazzling tiaras was a young woman in emotional freefall. Diana struggled not only with bulimia but also with depression and self-harm. In a series of confidential audio recordings made in 1991 at Kensington Palace for biographer Andrew Morton, Diana spoke candidly and heartbreakingly about her darkest hours. "I had bulimia for a number of years. It's a repetitive pattern which is very destructive to yourself. I was about to cut my wrists." Rather than seeing these afflictions as symptoms, many within royal circles viewed them as the cause of the marriage's failure. But Diana saw things differently. She insisted the bulimia was not the problem itself, but a desperate cry for help amid a toxic emotional environment. "I was crying out for help, but giving the wrong signals. People were using my bulimia as a coat on a hanger." For Diana, the palace walls felt increasingly suffocating. Her private ballet lessons with Anne Allen became a rare sanctuary. There, away from the flashing cameras and expectations, she allowed herself to be vulnerable. Allen later shared how Diana wept during sessions, confessing deep feelings of rejection, shame, and loneliness. She even expressed guilt over her own condition. "I am so ashamed and I suffer from bulimia." Yet even as her inner world collapsed, Diana's public persona began evolving into something extraordinary: the public reawakening and humanitarian devotion. Amid her personal suffering, Diana's humanitarian instincts intensified. In the mid-1980s, she turned her focus to charitable work, not simply as a royal duty, but as a personal mission. In 1987, she made headlines by opening the first dedicated AIDS ward in the UK, at Middlesex Hospital. At a time when misinformation and fear were widespread, Diana made a revolutionary gesture. She shook hands, without gloves, with a patient living with HIV. The image reverberated around the world. It shattered myths and humanized an entire group of people ostracized by society. Her compassion didn't end with symbolism. In July 1989, she opened the landmark AIDS Center in Tulse Hill, London. There, she firmly grasped the hand of the HIV-positive director, breaking the unspoken distance that even healthcare workers maintained at the time. She didn't speak from a podium. She acted with presence, dignity, and touch. Throughout the late 1980s and into the early 1990s, Diana became increasingly engaged in humanitarian work that extended far beyond the UK. She became a patron or supporter of numerous causes: children's hospitals, homelessness charities, addiction rehabilitation programs, and brain injury clinics. Organizations such as Barnardo's, Royal Marsden Hospital, and Turning Point benefited not just from her endorsement, but from her physical presence and hands-on support. By 1990, her global humanitarian profile soared. Following her work in the UK, Diana traveled to the United States to open Grandma's House in Washington, D.C., a hospice for AIDS patients. She later visited Indonesia, Pakistan, India, and parts of Africa, meeting victims of leprosy, landmines, and extreme poverty. Her courage in touching and embracing patients in countries where stigma was high made a lasting impact on global health narratives. Among her most iconic contributions was her anti-landmine campaign. Partnering with the Halo Trust, Diana walked through a minefield in Angola wearing body armor, calling international attention to the ongoing dangers of unexploded ordnance. Her visit drew immense global coverage and led to a wave of political support. The Ottawa Treaty banning anti-personnel landmines was signed just a few months after her tragic death in 1997, a lasting testament to her advocacy. Love, conflict, and the end of a royal chapter. But even as her influence grew, her marriage deteriorated. The fairy tale was unraveling publicly. Further audio tapes revealed Diana's growing awareness that Prince Charles had remained emotionally connected to Camilla Parker Bowles. The press began to uncover the depth of this love triangle, which Diana would later confirm in her groundbreaking 1995 interview with the BBC. "Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded." The couple formally separated on December 9, 1992. By August 1996, their divorce was finalized, a public acknowledgement of a failed union and, for Diana, a bold step toward personal freedom. Yet even in separation, Diana redefined what it meant to be royal. She gave up the title, Her Royal Highness, but kept something far more powerful: the people's admiration. A symbol of a new monarchy: empathy, dignity, and global reach. After the public split from Prince Charles, Diana came into her own. Free from royal protocol, she appeared stronger, more self-possessed, and more impactful than ever. Her humanitarian work intensified. No longer constrained by royal bureaucracy, she used her platform to lobby for compassion, dignity, and justice. She wasn't just visiting patients, she was elevating their stories, dismantling stigma, and urging political action. Diana's image shifted from vulnerable princess to global symbol of empathy. She came to represent a different kind of monarchy, one built not on entitlement but on service. Her outreach was personal, emotional, and real. She hugged children, wept with mothers, held hands with the dying, and walked minefields with survivors. She demonstrated that leadership does not require a crown, but a heart brave enough to listen. In the final year of her life, Diana continued to redefine global compassion. Her personal battles, once hidden, became the very foundation of her ability to connect with the world. She transformed pain into purpose, using her suffering to identify with others, and in doing so, inspired millions. Diana was no longer just a royal figure, she was a force. A bridge between the elite and the everyday. A mother. A friend. A symbol. A voice for the unheard. Even decades after her passing, Diana remains an enduring icon, a woman who, through her flaws and strength alike, showed the world that love, empathy, and dignity are the greatest forms of royalty. Legacy beyond the crown. Diana's death, memorials, and the enduring spirit of a princess. On August 31, 1997, the world was stunned by the sudden and tragic death of Princess Diana. She died in a car crash in the Pont d'Alma tunnel in Paris, alongside her companion Dodi Fayed and driver Henri Paul. News of her death spread like wildfire, paralyzing the globe in collective grief. Millions poured into the streets in mourning, and thousands gathered outside the gates of Kensington Palace, laying flowers, lighting candles, and silently paying tribute to the woman who had become not just royalty, but a symbol of humanity and compassion. The immense wave of public emotion prompted a rare and powerful response from Queen Elizabeth II. On September 5, 1997, the Queen delivered a televised speech from Buckingham Palace, an extraordinary gesture, praising Diana's warmth, kindness, and devotion to others. The address helped bridge the gap between the monarchy and the grieving nation, offering a moment of unity in the midst of sorrow. A living memory, charity, awards, and empowered youth. In the aftermath of Diana's death, her legacy was carefully preserved through philanthropic efforts that embodied her values and passions. The Princess of Wales Memorial Fund was established to support initiatives that mirror Diana's humanitarian causes: HIV/AIDS awareness, demoning operations, children's rights, homelessness, mental health, and social justice. Within a few years, the fund distributed tens of millions of pounds in grants to charities around the world, becoming one of the most impactful commemorative efforts of its time. In 1999, the Diana Award was launched to honor young people who demonstrate exceptional social commitment, leadership, and community impact. Aimed at individuals aged 9 to 25, the award recognizes those working to create positive change through activism, mentoring, and volunteerism. Inspired by Diana's life, the program continues to empower a new generation to serve with empathy and courage, regardless of background or privilege. Memorials across the globe, honoring a global icon. Numerous memorials dedicated to Diana were created not only in the UK but around the world, serving as physical and emotional landmarks for those moved by her life and death. In London, 3 key memorials stand out. The Diana Memorial Fountain in Hyde Park, opened in July 2004 by Queen Elizabeth II, was designed to reflect the duality of Diana's life. Water flows in 2 directions, one smooth and the other turbulent, symbolizing both the joyful and painful moments that defined her journey. The Diana Memorial Playground, located in Kensington Gardens and opened in June 2000, features a large wooden pirate ship, sensory paths, and inclusive play areas for children with disabilities. Inspired by Diana's love for children and her connection to the story of Peter Pan, the playground is a joyful space that celebrates her nurturing spirit. The Diana Memorial Walk, a 7-mile path through 4 of London's royal parks, links 5 historic sites associated with her life: Kensington Palace, Buckingham Palace, St. James's Palace, Clarence House, and Spencer House. Along the route, 90 plaques share personal moments, quotes, and reflections on her life and legacy. In Paris, a spontaneous memorial emerged at the Flame of Liberty near the Pont d'Alma tunnel shortly after Diana's death. The location, once an unofficial site of remembrance, was officially renamed Place Diana in her honor. Additionally, the Clos de Blanc's Manteau Garden in Paris's 4th arrondissement serves as a quiet tribute to her memory. In Vienna, Austria, a marble statue and bas-relief were unveiled near Schönbrunn Palace in 2013, the first memorial to Diana in a German-speaking country. The statue represents the enduring reach of her humanitarian message across language, culture, and geography. A statue for the ages, honoring Diana's 60th birthday. On July 1, 2021, what would have been Diana's 60th birthday, her sons, Princes William and Harry, came together to unveil a bronze statue in the sunken garden of Kensington Palace. Created by artist Ian Rank Broadley, the statue depicts Diana surrounded by 3 children, symbolizing her commitment to future generations and universal care for all people. The garden itself was redesigned with more than 4,000 flowers, including forget-me-nots, Diana's favorite, transforming the site into a living, blooming tribute. Despite their personal differences, the princes stood side by side to honor their mother, reinforcing her unifying legacy and the values she instilled in both of them. carrying her torch, William and Harry's commitment. Both Princes William and Harry have remained actively engaged in preserving their mother's memory and continuing her humanitarian mission. In 2017, on the 20th anniversary of her death, they gave heartfelt interviews for several documentaries, speaking candidly about their grief, childhood memories, and their desire to protect her name and story from misinterpretation or erasure. Prince Harry, in particular, has continued Diana's legacy in demoning efforts. In July 2025, he returned to Angola, where Diana had walked through a minefield in 1997, to visit a newly cleared site, walking in a protective vest just as she had done. Working with the Halo Trust, Harry emphasized the long-term impact of his mother's work and how it continues to change lives in conflict-affected regions. Transforming the monarchy, a legacy of compassion and courage. Princess Diana's greatest legacy may be the transformation she inspired within the institution of the monarchy itself. She redefined royal duty, making it more personal, emotional, and modern. Her willingness to speak publicly, to touch those considered untouchable, to cry in front of the cameras, and to challenge the silence around mental health broke with centuries of tradition. Through acts both grand and small, she made compassion fashionable and service dignified. Her now famous 1995 BBC Panorama interview wasn't just a media moment, it was a watershed. She confronted infidelity, mental illness, and royal protocol head-on, sparking national and international conversations and forcing the Crown to reassess its relationship with the public. Diana's embrace of AIDS patients, landmine victims, disabled children, and marginalized communities changed how the royal family engages with the world. Her humanitarian approach wasn't ceremonial, it was transformative. She helped forge a new model of monarchy, empathetic, accessible, and deeply human. A princess forever. Today, Diana is remembered not just for the tragedy of her death, but for the brilliance of her life. Her sons continue to walk in her footsteps, her humanitarian projects thrive, and her memory remains alive in the hearts of millions. In a world too often divided by status and power, Diana offered a different vision, one of shared dignity, emotional authenticity, and radical kindness. She was a princess not only by title, but by the grace of how she loved and served. Long after the carriages and crowns have faded into history, Diana, the people's princess, continues to shine.